Welcome to the Hustle Factory podcast show.
All we do is hustle.
And here's your host, John Lindemus.
He's kind of a big deal.
Bringing you amazing insights and views of entrepreneurship on today's society.
Hello everyone, this is your host John Lindemus, and I'm back again with another amazing episode of the Hustle Factory podcast show. Hope everyone had an amazing and blessed Thanksgiving a month ago. What did you guys do during that day? I know certainly for sure that I ate so much food that I just slept it off on the next day. And the next day was just another day for me to hustle and back to the game of entrepreneurship. Let me ask this question to all my listeners and subscribers who are either entrepreneurs or even hustlers in a different niche. Does it ever occur to you guys that there are things in school system will never teach you about entrepreneurship? I know I do ever since I started my journey as an entrepreneur. So join me in today's episode as I discuss 5 things that the school system wouldn't teach you about entrepreneurship. While I was pursuing my business major back in 2010 at South Florida State College in Avon Park, Florida, I was taught about the so-called final workings of business, and it pretty much got me familiarized with accounting, management, ethics, and especially marketing. But there are some valuable entrepreneurial lessons that did not teach me at all. So let's go ahead and explore the 5 lessons that I learned during my journey as an entrepreneur. Not the fucking classroom. Here it goes. So first up on the list is how to sell. I'm pretty sure the first thing that pops in your head when I say how to sell is either you're selling or promoting a product or service to someone. While it is almost true, it doesn't necessarily have to be you're physically selling something. Well, let me explain this way, ladies and gentlemen. In any business school, they're supposed to teach you how to advertise and position your product or service that is attractive to customers, right? But there's nothing in their academic curriculum that actually teaches you how to sell. And why is that? Check this out. And here's the thing, here's the thing. It doesn't fucking matter if your teacher or professor denies or even admit they absolutely have all the necessary tools for them to teach you how to sell or marketing wise. The only way you can learn and master this important skill set is not through the school system, but rather through a hands-on experience that can only gain outside the classroom. Just know that marketing is not just all about selling something, but it is more like how you present yourself in order to sell or promote a product or service you're trying to present to your customers. In short, personal branding. So I'll put it this way, guys, by simply checking out the following examples I'll be illustrating. It's one thing a girl reject you at a high school prom or a dance, and especially when you're presenting a particular product or service to your friends and they just simply ignore the hell out of you. Sounds familiar, right, guys? And this actually happened to me when I was in high school, and you know what? I've learned an amazing, valuable lesson on that day, and it took me years to figure it out. That example right there is just another form of marketing, ladies and gentlemen. Know that selling is the key to your business, but in addition to providing revenue, from what I've learned so far as an entrepreneur, is that the absolute best way to learn and master marketing or selling wise is to simply get on first-hand experience through internships and other amazing opportunities that will allow yourself to continually develop this critical skill. So second one is all about how to work with non-business people. In school, you probably had friends in different majors or interests, yet the real question is, how often did you work or do projects with them? To me, the answer is hardly ever, because most of my classes and group projects were only with other business students, or it simply doesn't match at all. While this is a great way for me to build my business skills, but as an entrepreneur, you need to be able to work with a huge variety of people in order to become a successful entrepreneur. Here's the third thing that the school system will never teach you about entrepreneurship, and it is how to fail. So throughout our entire so-called education, we were taught, or let me be more specific, brainwashed that failing is bad and we should only focus on getting A's in all of our classes. And in my honest opinion, that is completely bullshit and that is completely, somehow irrelevant. While this concept makes sense in school, no matter what, this is just simply doesn't fucking apply to the real world and especially to entrepreneurship. And I have zero intention of encouraging you guys to purposely fail. But if you're going to fail, which most entrepreneurs experience in their lifetime, then you need to learn from this experience and use that as a valuable asset to your entrepreneurial journey. You feeling me? Also, I did an episode about failing and I talk about the perspectives of failing through entrepreneurship and a daily life as well. You can go ahead and check that episode out on SoundCloud as well. And I believe it is episode 9 of the Hustle Factory podcast show. Next up is how to negotiate. While this skill is valuable to all aspects of business, whether it is selling, fundraising, crowdfunding, and others, while I was in the pursuit of my business major at South Florida State College, I have actually come across an interesting class that teaches you the proper way to go about this. Your teacher and professor are more likely to explain the basics of negotiation, but truthfully, it is unlikely that you will get any experience negotiating while in school. In other words, it is crucial to talk to mentors and learn from them how to negotiate properly and effectively. And the last thing you want is to be taken advantage of or offend anyone. And honestly, this is one skill that will naturally be mastered as the time passes by. Yet having much experience as you can before negotiating your first deal will save you from giving away too much value. Wow. We are on the fifth and final thing that the school will never teach you about entrepreneurship. Well, that's kind of like a bit of a relief, but in a good way. And that is how to hire. Now, this can be applied in different ways, but since we are focusing on the entrepreneurial side of it, then I can go ahead and tell you guys more about it. It is true that hiring is one of the most crucial things you do as an entrepreneur because searching other people will show your vision, will help your business grow rapidly. Here's the truth that most of us don't even realize it. There is not a single class or school that will teach you on handling and managing employees once you hire them. In other words, recruiting or hiring people is pretty much the same to learning how to sell that you have to find and discover alternative ways to master this. Plus, if you think about it, it's also similar to sales in that you'll have to pitch your business to someone and get them enough to invest their time and energy into it. Woo! Now that we have covered the 5 things that school will never teach you about entrepreneurship, why don't we go ahead and get on to the next segment of this podcast by introducing the featured independent artist for this episode. Let's do it. Before I get started with this segment, I just want to say some few things. First is that since I started this segment on episode 6, I've been getting a huge amount of engagement on my podcast episodes and so on. Also, because of this, I was actually able to meet and connect with other independent artists throughout social media and get to know them more. And if it wasn't for this, then I'll never be able to meet these independent artists that were featured on this podcast. So without any further ado, let me introduce the featured independent artist for this episode, and that is Ryder, a good friend of mine, also known as Maurice. He's back again for the second time being featured on this podcast. He was first featured on episode 6, so go ahead and check it out if you haven't listened to that episode yet, guys. Anyways, in today's episode, you'll be listening to a sample of one of his latest track that he recently uploaded on SoundCloud a week ago. So here's a sample of his latest song on SoundCloud titled "In My Feelings" by Ryder. And listen, we're not talking about Drake's song "In My Feelings." Hell no. Enjoy, sit back and relax, and I'll be back in a few minutes. See you guys later.
Lately, shawty been asking me how am I feeling. She say ain't being myself and lately been tripping, yeah. She know I won't do no drinking and lately been sipping, yeah. Smoking a lot of weed, I'm high as the ceiling, yeah. I'm in my feelings, yeah. I'm in my feelings, yeah. You know the reason, girl, start asking me why I've been tripping, yeah. I'm in my feelings, yeah. I'm in my feelings, yeah. You know the reason, girl.
So, you just listened to Ryder's new song on SoundCloud, "In My Feelings" on SoundCloud. And this song is on fire right now. I mean, damn crazy. I mean, in a good way, at least. So, if you guys want to check out and listen to the full song of this track, it is now available on SoundCloud. And make sure to follow and support him as well on SoundCloud. I can tell you that he's a very talented artist, and I know for sure he will get there soon. Plus, don't forget to follow him on Twitter at RyderLive and on SoundCloud as well to keep posted on the latest tracks he's dropping. Lastly, as Christmas and the end of the year nearly approaches, I just want to let you guys know that there will be huge developments on this podcast by next year, especially with this segment as well. To finally wrap things up, here are some few things that I wanted to say. Even though my business education is decent, but not the greatest, there are some of the crucial and valuable lessons are an entrepreneur must learn just simply cannot be taught and learned in the classroom alone. In order to be successful, you must develop the skill set in alternative ways. So when you go to start your own business or even perhaps become an entrepreneur, they will become a second nature to you. You're feeling me? And even though it takes a huge amount of time and effort, honing all these skill sets will definitely pay off in the long run. So just remember this one thing: hard work always fucking pays off when executed in a very consistent basis. Thanks for listening to the Hustle Factory podcast show with me as your host. If you love my podcast show and want to know more, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at H Factory Podcast and also on our Facebook page as well for some news and updates on the upcoming episodes of the show. And please don't forget that my podcast show is available on iTunes and Google Podcasts as well. Lastly, it will mean a world to me, guys, if you can leave an amazing review of my podcast on iTunes. The link is going to be on my SoundCloud profile as well. So, what are your thoughts on this episode, guys? Do you agree or disagree with it? So, simply go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments on the comments below, and make sure to support me by sharing this episode to your friends and family members. So, join me again at the end of this month, which is end of December. Whew, that's gonna be almost near 2019, guys, for another new episode of the Hustle Factory Podcast Show. Well, I haven't really thought what I will be discussing for this episode yet, but make sure to keep an eye on my social media networks for news and updates. Other than that, I will see you guys in the next episode. Have a blessed day, and I'll be back soon, guys. Later, guys.